We're here on the Dunn County Criminal Justice Collaborating Council. Today is November 21st, 2024, and it's 4 p.m. We have a quorum, yay. And so I'm calling the meeting to order. Sarah, do you want to call the roll?
Sure. Let's see, we've got, Vice Chair, Beth Meyer, we've got Chris Porpola, County Manager, we've got Judge Jim Peterson, we've got, DHS Director Paula Winter, we've got Menominee Police Department Chief, Hollister, we've got Clerk of Courts, Katie Shalley, we've got Department of Corrections, Field Supervisor Michelle Barrow, we've got Assistant Public Defender Jonathan Lundeen. We have, it was the interim chief, Lisa Peterson. She's sitting in, but we also expect perhaps the new chief, Greg Colossus. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna make it or not.
Right, he's getting sworn in today, and then thought he might be able to zoom in at some point, but that might be asking a lot. But we got designee nonetheless. We've got Jamie Dardane from the Bridge to Hope. We've got Josie Low Liberty from Child Support, and we've got KT Gallagher from Public Health. And then we also have the new Corp Council, and can you share your name?
Sure, my name's Jim McMenamy.
Okay.
McMenomy.
Okay, I'll look you up. All right, gotcha. All right, there's our, we didn't miss anybody, did we? Nope, there we go.
All right, thank you. We have meeting minutes going back to February 29th of 2024. We haven't had a quorum for a long time. Has everybody reviewed those meeting minutes?
Of course.
Do you have a motion?
Yes. We make a motion to approve all the outstanding meeting minutes.
Which would be February 29th, May 30th, and August 8th. Thank you. Any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any? Is there any public comments?
No.
Consideration of actions for the council. We have, two. We can call them new. Jamie Dardine is not new. She's been here for quite some time. Thank you for coming. And, Judge Smeltzer. Is there anybody who wants to discuss that?
As nominations. Are they just finding out that they're alive in the world? Or yours their purpose?
Their nominations. Would you like to move to accept that nomination, Ms. Corpola?
Yes, I would.
I will second that.
Is there a second?
I will second. Always.
Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The executive committee nominated Sheriff Kevin Biggs as vice chair for next year, 2025 and 2026. Would somebody like to move to confirm that nomination?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion about that? Look at us being
So
good.
just
now.
as a point of clarification, he would become vice chair in 25 and chair in 26, correct? Or is it 2 years?
2
in each?
years as
2 years
chair.
vice chair and then chair, okay,
Then 2 years as chair.
got it.
If he wanted to be, I would step aside.
I know.
Let's not get hasty there.
So we have a primary, we have a secondary. Any other conversations regarding that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sarah's going to talk to us about a letter for support for the Arbor Place Brighter Future grant application.
All right, so Arbor Place reached out to us, the CJCC, requesting a letter of support to continue their youth empowerment program. It is a drug prevention program that's offered to middle school students in Menominee, Elk Mountain, Boyceville. And it's designed to address the pressures that can come along with, to use drugs and alcohol. So try to empower youth after school, so they start to be able to, become leaders within their own peer groups as far as, that prevention piece. So, we wrote a letter a number of years ago and they got the grant. So this, would be for them to continue to offer the YET program, to those school districts, and they're requesting our letter of support.
And is that a 3 or a 5 year? Does it say?
No, it does not say, but I think it is at least.
It's at least
2
3. Well, it's at least 3, but I don't know if it's 3 or 5.
So I'd entertain a motion of support or address any questions.
I would make a motion of support.
That was
Paula,
Paula.
that was Paula
We can
whispering.
hardly hear you.
Paula whispering.
I would make a motion of support. This is Paula.
Excellent. Thank you, Paula.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And is there anyone that would like to have discussion regarding this? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We also need Sarah to talk about a letter of support to participate in Texas Christian University's multi-state deflection research study.
All right, so this came to us through the State Department of Justice. The National Police Treatment and Community Collaborative Executive Director was working with Texas Christian University, who wants to do some research on law enforcement deflection programs. So they kind of reached out to some of the states that are doing deflection, and Wisconsin's one of the leaders in that. And the state referred them to Dunn County for Project COSAC, by the nominee police department and our sheriff's office, behavioral health officers that are doing deflection and diversion. So we had a couple of meetings with the Texas Christian University folks and the executive director of PTAC. Essentially, we needed them to be on board that whatever the ask is for this research project, that we're able to do it without it being overwhelming for us. Since our projects are grant funded, we are collecting data already and reporting data, anonymous data. So really, it wouldn't be much of an extra load for us to participate in this. And the possible rewards of, in a couple of years when the research is done, for us to really see, are these programs making a difference or not when we're talking about law enforcement deflection. So they've requested us to be part of one of their sites, but they are doing multi-states and really looking at all sorts of different programs. So they have drafted a letter of support and really just requesting us to approve it. And then there's also subsequent letters that would go out to our partners if our CJCC was agreeable to do this research project. But from the workers that would be doing the work, they are on board and they think it would be beneficial. So we're bringing it to the council for you guys to weigh in.
Are you comfortable with the research setup and methodology?
Yes, because this would be a SAMHSA funded project, so it's very thorough. It's very, I mean, they're not even applying until January and already kind of getting the things worked out. So yes, from what we know, it does seem like a legitimate research project, and it's supported by some of these national organizations that are promoting deflection. Yes.
Is there a motion in favor of having a letter of support?
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second? Is there discussion about this issue?
Did you say how many years the research project?
I'm just curious.
No, I guess I don't. No, but it's a multi-year. It's a multi-year grant, so it'd be a multi-year research project. Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
No, I think that's cool.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. CJCC Program Recidivism Report, annual update.
All right, so I'm gonna be passing around hot off the press, some reports here. I want them to wait. So I'll take one and pass it, and then I will put it on the screen. So we'll go over it, and then after, as long as we don't catch any egregious errors, we'll blast it out after. Let me pull it up here. Share. Hold on, I want to make sure I got the right version. There it is. Okay. Share. Okay. All right, hope you see it on the screen. I will attempt to make it a little bit larger. It's not hard. There we go. Okay, so let me just start by saying this is an annual project that we started back in 2020 and really looking at our collaborative programs and the outcomes overall. One of the biggest measures is recidivism, really. Are they committing the crimes that are bringing them back into our criminal justice system? This would be the fourth version of this report, and we look at the pre-charge diversion program that's being operated out of the DA's office. Look at the treatment opportunity program, that's the post-charge deflection. Look at treatment court and family treatment court. And in future years, we can include some of these newer kind of grant-funded programs that we're operating, but these are more of the established programs. So, as far as, the impacts and the measures, we really looked at new criminal convictions. So that was a change that we made this year. So we dropped ordinance violations from the measure of recidivism. We're looking at new criminal charges, whether that's misdemeanor or felony. So they are adjusted a little bit.
Charges or convictions?
Convictions.
Okay.
And when we're talking about, some of the benefits of these programs, when we reduce crime, we improve safety, we improve the lives of the individuals in our community, that we improve the lives of the individuals that committed the offenses. And there's a lot of benefits that come from that. When we're taking somebody that maybe not working or not living at their full potential and really be able to not only hold them accountable to whatever crime that they may have committed, but also work on that treatment piece where they can start to rehabilitate and get their lives back together. The benefits are not only for that individual, but for their family and all of us in general. So that's been kind of standard fare in the last couple of reports, so not a whole lot of adjustments there. But I'm going to scroll down for our online to the first one. We're going to do the pre-charge diversion program. So this is a program that was started in 2016 out of the DA's office, and really takes research tells us that first-time offenders or low-risk offenders do better when they have less touch by the criminal justice system. So the less we do with them, the more better they do. Does that make sense? The better they do. So really, this program is those first-time offenders or low-level crimes. The DA's office reviews the charges that come in. They have a pre-charge diversion coordinator that operates the program and really manages the program. If somebody is found, if the DA's office wants to offer one of these agreements and the individual agrees to take part in it, they usually have to remain crime-free for 6 months. And then they may have some other added things to do, but typically it's just stay out of trouble for 6 months and we'll dismiss or reduce the charges. So out of the folks that really participated in this program, so since 2016, we've had 421 graduates out of the pre-charge program, out of 592. So the completion rate is 71%. Of those 71%, 98% did not have new charges within 1 year. 95% didn't have new charges within 3 years. And then we moved that to the 5 year, 93% did not have new charges. So to me, this really is that research in practice, and this is the proof that it works. Low risk, low level crimes, if we can divert them from the criminal justice system, we have better outcomes. Because the more you're affiliating with criminal behavior, criminal types, the more you're learning, the more you're absorbing, the less shock the system is, the less fear that you might have of what is to come. And this really is that low risk person that if they get in trouble, they're like, I'm getting my stuff together, I'm doing whatever I have to do to stay out of trouble. And they usually stay that way and move on with the rest of their lives. So this is kind of some stats that really show that it is very effective as far as really safely moving them out of the criminal justice system with very little recidivism for this group of folks. The next page is the program data, the details of the program data overall. And you can see over time, we're continuing to monitor and measure that the recidivism outcomes. So at the end of this year, we'll be able to look at the 5 year for 2019 and so on. So each year we kind of add to the number of people that we're looking back to see how they did overall. Any questions on the pre-charge diversion? I wish Andrea was here. Moving on to the treatment. We got Chris with her calculator.
Sorry.
How's it looking?
It
Chris?
looks fine.
Okay.
Just double checking it out.
Well, right, because there's a lot of numbers here, so we want to make sure it's right. Dunn County's Treatment Opportunity Program is a post-charge diversion program for people that either through the DA's office are offered an agreement to participate in TOP. TOP can also get referrals from the Department of Corrections, probation, and probationers mainly as a response to evidence-based response to violations or as an alternative to revocation. So we have a couple different routes that people get in that program, and that program serves all risk levels. So we can have low risk, medium risk, and high risk in that program overall. It is a treatment-focused program, so there has to be some underlying substance use, alcohol use issues. And what comes with that is intensive case management, treatment, and drug testing. So kind of call it treatment court light in some regards, in that some of those same components, but it's not necessarily team operated. So this is usually court ordered or ordered through the Department of Corrections. And if folks don't follow through, then the case goes back to wherever it originated and the case would proceed as normal. If the participants complete the program, and some can complete within 6 months, some it takes longer. I think the average is 14 months that we're going on for TOP. But essentially folks need to get through their treatment based on their level of care. They need to have, non-negative or drug-free drug screens. We'll start with that. And then they've got to be in good standing with the coordinator. So it always takes more time for folks to get through the programs and graduate than it does to flunk out or to not do well. The coordinator is housed in the CJCC and works closely with the DA's office. They have monthly meetings to review really who's on the list, who's getting referred, the status, how things are going. And here are some of the stats. So for the treatment opportunity program, about 60% of the participants complete the program. That's been kind of a steady trend overall. But we're looking at recidivism. We're finding that 85% of graduates have no new convictions 1 year post-program. 73% have no new convictions 3 years post-program. That starts to wane a little bit once we get to that 5-year measure. But still overall, 63% had no new convictions, meaning they're not coming back into the criminal justice system. The state treatment alternatives and diversion is kind of housed within the Department of Justice. They are doing they do a 5-year evaluation. So the next 5-year evaluation will come out in January. But that's where we get the cost savings. So for every dollar that's invested in TAD, the state has calculated that it benefits over $8 in savings to the counties, and that's aggregate across the board across the state. But we'll get some new cost benefit ratios coming out of the state in early 2025. But again, this is really taking those folks that are just starting to really, whether they're dabbling or have addiction issues, it's becoming aware of the criminal system and really trying to address that underlying reason why they're being brought into the system. Treatment is largely the component there. And if I have that's at any time, so anybody can ask any questions. Again, here's the specifics for TOP, so you can certainly take a look and double check our math, but it should be good. We've had a lot of eyes on this. Moving down the line, we got treatment court. So this is our most intensive program, structured program. It is for high risk, high need individual. High risk meaning you're assessed as being high risk to recidivate, and you're assessed at needing high treatment needs in order to reduce that risk of recidivating. So this really is our most challenging population that we have, this and family treatment court. And the results aren't really any surprise here. Our completion rate's been pretty steady at just under 50%. The national average is 50 to 70%. And that is really with the caveat, if you're not really a severe substance use user, then you're going to get through the program faster. So that average of 50 to 70%, they're saying you got to make sure you got the right people in the program. So this is just an indicator that we probably do have the right people in the program, meaning not everybody's going to get through this longer term treatment program overall. But those that have gotten through the program and completed, so 61 graduates since we started in 2008, 79% have had no new convictions 1 year post-program. That jumps to 45%, no new convictions 3 years post-program. And then 5 years, we're at about 46%. So you can see the recidivism rates are higher with the treatment court population. And they are, circling back to some degree. But as we talked last year, or the year before when we reviewed these, that's still 50% of those individuals that are high risk, high utilizers of our criminal justice system and social service systems that are not coming back to our criminal justice system. So those are huge savings.
Does the state put out numbers for recidivism rate of people that get out of prison?
So yes, and we have that on the next page. It is from 2016 was the last information that they published, but the comparison here. So COC 1 year recidivism is 31%, 3 years 52%, and then they don't do a 5 year average. A lot of the trend is to get away from a 5 year recidivism because they say most effects, whatever effect you may have given them, it starts to wane over time. So you don't see 5 year recidivism rates as much, but we started doing 5 years and I think we should continue to do so. One thing I would just note on the treatment court, similarly to TOP, this one also has the cost benefit ratio. So for every dollar that's invested in treatment court, it saves $4 in system costs and reduced costs. That's another stat that's going to be updated hopefully in early 2025. So we'll see how that number trends. But you can see just the numbers, you know, that program's one of the first that was started in the CJCC. So we've got more years to look at the data overall. You can kind of see the impacts with COVID and how that kind of came into the picture, but we're just continuing to do the same measures over time. And then finally, we've got the family treatment court. So similar to the adult treatment court model, this is really a similar model where folks are coming into court frequently. They are focused on treatment. There's intensive case management and there's drug testing. And this is for families that are involved in the child protective system and are at risk. They have child protective orders on all of them. They volunteer to participate in the program. So the numbers here are quite a bit lower and it's a newer program. So we have less data to reflect on. But the completion rate is about 50%. We've had 13 of 26 graduates since 2019. When we're looking at 1 year post-program, we have no new convictions. So 1 year of those 9 graduates, nobody has either committed a criminal offense or was had child protective case reopened 1 year post-program. When we look at the 3 years post-program, that's where 2 of 2 have re-entered the system. So because our sample is so low for that first year, we only had 2 graduates. You know, it's really hard to make a whole lot of inferences from it. But those are families that have been re-engaged in the system. At the end of 2024, we'll have more data to look at for the next group, but you can see the numbers are growing over the years. And then, you know, one thing we added from the last time we did the report was the total number of children. And you can see, you know, of the 13 individuals that completed the program, there were 62 kids involved. So.
I think it's harder to measure these numbers because if somebody is terminated from the program, that doesn't necessarily mean that children come back out of them. So the Department of Human Services still evaluates for safety. And so if the parents are using marijuana, they're probably going to be terminated from our program. If they continue to use, if they use for months and months and they won't stop using and they have no intention of stop using, they shouldn't be in our program. However, the question would be, are their children safe at that point in time? And so if the social worker goes into the home, you know, they had been using meth before and now they're using marijuana. And I just don't want to use the word just, but you know, if there's not a safety issue, they're not smoking pot in front of the kids, they're not exposing their children to marijuana, they're not doing those type of things, then the kids aren't pulled from home, the kids remain in the home. And so it's a little harder to reflect that type of thing, because even though they were terminated, there is a huge piece of success associated with that. Because, I mean, now that I don't approve of marijuana, I'm unhappy that we have to terminate them, but the huge piece of success is that their children are in the home and are safe. And so it's hard to show that or measure that or have an idea of what that is under these numbers.
That's correct, because we are just focused on those that successfully completed, not those that were terminated or ended their participation for a variety of reasons. And I would say the same holds true for the adult treatment court, that even those that weren't successful in completing the full program still had benefits from participating, and our community still had benefits from participating as well.
If they're terminated and there's a reentry, what guidelines do they have to meet for the reentry?
For adult court or family treatment?
For the adult one there.
So if somebody is terminated, so the judge would rule if somebody is terminated from the program or not. And then they can reapply if there is a new charge that brought them, you know, to the situation. Or sometimes they serve a Department of Corrections sanction and then can kind of, so they're on pause for treatment court and then engaged. But they can reapply. And we've seen the same with family treatment court too. If there's a new event that would make them eligible, and they are eligible in all other aspects, then, and they're agreeable to participate. For treatment court, we have to have the district attorneys agreeable, the defense attorneys agreeable, and then the judge says yes, that they can participate. Family treatment court's a little bit different, where it's the Department of Human Services is kind of presenting the family treatment court as an option for a family to participate, and it's really up to them if they choose to do so or not. So it's just different ways to enter the program. As far as exiting the program, it's somewhat similar, where the judge would determine if, you know, the family treatment court participant is terminated or not. And again, they could, if they had another event that would make them eligible, certainly participate.
But it has to be a new event, right?
Yeah.
Or it can't be one that they decide they want to turn around. Like the vet people are always having lapses. You get back in it, it takes 4, 5, 6 times to get things right.
That's right, that's right. And that's unfortunately kind of the nature of the disease.
Yes.
With methamphetamine. With the family court, there are timelines when children are removed from the home. So sometimes there's the pressure that within a certain amount of months that the kid can't be out of home. So there's other time pressures, I would say, that are on the family treatment court timeline, where treatment court, if somebody is not doing well, usually we adjust their treatment and they get them more treatment. They just take longer to get through the program. But there has been cases where there's just continued use and just really inability to engage and take part. And then we can see new charges, and then it just becomes a situation that it's really hard to rectify within treatment court.
I don't think in family treatment court there would have to be no charges. If the children are out of home, they're continuing to use meth. They're in treatment court and then they continue to use meth and we terminate them. Then, however, 6 months later, you know, the new event could be the social worker talking to them and saying, hey, you want to try this again? And I think we would probably say that. Yeah.
You know, family treatment court top are 100% abstinence sobriety program. So there's no THC, there's no Delta, there's no drinking, there's no meth, certainly there's nothing. And some people, it's a harm reduction, right? So they don't want to give up their Delta or whatever because they're not using meth. That's where, you know, Judge was talking a little bit about that continued use. They just really don't want to be totally abstinent from use. And it's to the point where it's not necessarily impacting the family safety.
So in the family treatment court, there's an underlying child in need of protection or services order. And so if they're terminated from the family treatment court, they still have that underlying order. So let's say that somebody is in our program for meth use and they never stop using them, right? I mean, if you get a couple days out of them, that's good, right? But so then, you know, we can't have them continue in our program, right? At some point in time, you have to terminate their participation, not only for them, but also for the other participants. The other participants can't see these people getting away with using and still being in our program. But they have that underlying CHIPS order, which means that the social worker is still working. They're still involved with human services. If their child was out of home, their child's still out of home, right? So it's not as though they, even though it's a voluntary program, we don't go away. I mean, family treatment court goes away, but the rest of them don't go away.
Any other questions or observations or thoughts? Judge, anything that you'd like to say? Treatment court front?
Well, Judge Wagner's prepared to take over the treatment court beginning in January. He did presided last week and it went well. And we've got a new coordinator, Kayla Johnson. So I'm real optimistic about that. And I'm scheduled to do 4 sessions next year, with, you know, so that we have that continuity. And I'm real happy that we're going to have all 3 of us, you know, being able to step in if we need to keep the program going. I mean, it's been about 10 years for me, and they say, you know, your rotation should be not less than 2 years, no more than 10 years. And, Luke said I was making that up today. Well, I've been about 10.5 years roughly.
Wow.
But I'm also open to whether we ever get to that juncture to look at either mental health treatment court or OWI court, if that, down the road, but because I believe in it, probably the most difficult part of it is when you have these disappointments, you have people that show success and you think, you've made a difference. And, we've had it, they may, celebrate graduation by using in the courthouse parking lot, I mean, that's anecdotal, but it's hard because you get emotionally invested and you like to see people turn it around and become, from being homeless, jobless, so forth to, connecting with their family again, having a job, being taxpayers, having a driver's license and those sorts of things. There's the good things that come of it. And so, but I remember, Sarah, when we were working on this way back and when I started.
10 years ago.
You and I went to California for the national program for training. But there's still those that fail. Still, there's some harm reduction. There's still, they tend to do better than they would have had they not been in the program. So I'm pretty optimistic about that because I mean, that's any good that we can do is a good thing, try and turn lives around. So that's, any questions?
Great.
I was thinking as a follow-up to Jim, if they fail. We can always keep the kids. You can always send them to prison then, right? I mean, it's not as though you're letting them off,
Right.
right? It's hoping they succeed.
Right.
And if they succeed, then we've accomplished a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, grants available. Sarah, do you want to talk about available grants?
Yeah. I'm gonna show a PowerPoint.
You got 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, I won't take that. So I see it on my screen, but not on the screen over there, so I got more steps here. Share.
We're all patient.
Okay. There we go. All right, so this chart should look familiar from our last meeting, but just trying to keep everybody abreast of all the different grants and funding that we have going with the CJCC. I guess that might be okay to see here, maybe bigger.
One tiny bit bigger would be.
All right, so, let me start by just going off of the agenda. So the first grant I want to talk about is the Department of Justice JAG, Wisconsin Deflection Initiative grant. So this is a continuation of our law enforcement deflection funding for the sheriff's office to have a behavioral health officer. So this is $140,000. It started October 1st and it runs, we got a 12-month stint on this and hope to get renewed. I was told on the state level that they also received a CASAP grant, so they have 5 years of more funding coming. And they're looking to expand the number of law enforcement deflection and diversion sites out there. We're one of the first that they kind of piloted with the Department of Justice, so that's why they're continuing to fund us and really want to kind of see how we grow and some of the outcomes. So we anticipate that that state funding is going to go beyond 2026, but that's where that's at. We were at 250,000 last year, so it is a significant reduction. All the housing dollars that were pushed through that have dried up. None of the CJCC grants had housing funding, where we had $150,000 last year. So that's one of those unmet needs that is going to be becoming increasingly more challenging positional funding to help out overall. But we're in business there. That really covers staff wages and benefits of the behavioral health officer, Dylan Christ. a little bit of travel and training and a little bit of supplies, but it's really essentially a person and a desk. And a cell phone. We did get word in our negotiating that we received will, if in the ducks in a row, receive a state Department of Health Services law enforcement opioid abatement grant. And that would, and so it's not on this chart, but that would be to supplement our behavioral health officers, Project Hope. We had all sorts of things covered in there that we'll have to do some work with our partners at the city because they received their toss-up grant. Some of the same kind of key components we had covered. So like the electronic case management system, we had covered in both because we didn't know, it's like shooting darts, or fishing, right? You don't know what you're gonna get on the line and bring in. So we had a bunch of lines out as far as grant applications, and we received 2 of them to support Project Hope. So I guess I'll just share the details once we get that approved, but that would be an additional $250,000 for behavioral health officers that the state is providing. And we're really focused on peer support and hiring a caseworker to work with our behavioral health officers. They're out there doing the deflection and creating diversion opportunities, but they need somebody to hand off the case to until that person can be more involved in maybe other ongoing services, social services, so just a helper. But more to come on that in the future. And more to come after, I guess, we kind of get to the drawing table with our partners and kind of see how far we can get our funding to really stretch. But that opioid abatement, that'll be a 5-year or longer grant for $250,000. So pretty sizable. Let's see, next we've got the Department of Justice Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Grant. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place, but I'm just going off of the agenda. So this was our treatment in jail funding, ended in September 30th, and we got a new grant started October 1st. But it is a slightly different focus. It's to offer residential substance use treatment in the jail. So we've got the jail making plans to create a therapeutic community. They're going to be taking one of the Huber pods and transforming that into a therapeutic community. So the folks that are in the program, it'll be a 12-bed kind of different space for the folks that are really focused on treatment and focused on recovery. There'll be some perks to being part of that pod, but it's really about that like-mindedness and really creating the atmosphere and the thinking for change. We know that from the research, jail can be criminogenic because of the people you're affiliating with, the things that are being talked about, the things that are being done, or what have you. This really takes those that are focused on recovery and putting them in their own unit, so they're able to support one another and create those natural supports. So this grant is, it's about $100,000 or just slightly under. It does require a match, so we are using our local opioid settlement funds to help fund the substance abuse counselor in jail. So this grant, again, it went from 250 down to 100,000, is really covering staff wages and benefits with a little bit of supplies and not much else. Pretty lean on that one.
And Sarah, will that therapeutic community within the jail be gender specific?
Yes, it will. So it'll be a male pod. We continue to have the NNAI, that's just the non-narcotic, whatever, injectable, stands for something. But it's just the grant title. So that's the medication for medicated assisted treatment in the jail. So the secondary grant covers the medication costs. So we're still able to administer the MAT program in jail. We still have the funding to get the medications, which are quite expensive. And that's also a 5-year grant. Moving along, we've got the state TAD. So that's the treatment alternatives and diversion. We've got the funding request, and it's moving ahead without issue. to continue our top program. So that's pretrial services and the top diversion program. That one also requires a match, so we've got a 25% match, so that's been pretty steady the last couple of years. New this year, there was $2 million more that the state of Wisconsin was putting towards TAD, and they said, all right, counties, who wants it? So we raised our hand and put in an application for treatment court enhancements, and that is also tracking as being approved. So we're looking at $100,000 per year in enhancements for treatment court. And the plan is to do things that are similar to what we have in family treatment court, in that we've got a dedicated mental health liaison on the team. We've got a peer support liaison on the team. We've got enhanced drug testing with all of these newer drugs that our standard cups are really picking up, xylazine, fentanyl, all sorts of stuff. And really funding for peer support. Our adult court really has had a shoestring budget, because it's been a fairly large budget, but it was all drug testing. This extra $100,000 will really allow us to do get peer support for people that need it, don't have other funding sources, to really help bolster the participants so they can ease back into the community and have more support while they're out there, to hopefully have better outcomes with treatment courts. So that seems to be moving ahead for that grant. So that would be, if we get it, it would start in January for $100,000. And then lastly, our federal family treatment court grant. So that's pretty sizable. It's just shy of $300,000 a year, and we do have a 25% match. So we've got that through September of 2026, and that provides the enhanced team members with mental health, peer support, and then funding for services for families. So for evidence-based services. So that's also moving ahead pretty nicely. So that is our grant update. I would just say, if we get this new law enforcement abatement and the treatment court TAD funding, we'll be up to 7 grants that we have ongoing at the same time. So we've got a lot of moving parts, a lot of reports, a lot of meetings, a lot of stuff that comes along with the funding. But again, this is all to really enhance what has already been developed in Dunn County, that's already been supported by Dunn County. It's just really being able to take it to the next level with some of this outside funding. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just one question. I was just kind of curious about how much total are we being able to bring in with grants to support the programs that this.
I should total that, yeah.
I'm just
put on
kind
my
of
evaluation
curious.
report.
Bravo on being a great grant writer. I think that's huge. Bringing that in, it really helps.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I took a class in college, but it certainly has
Paid
paid
off.
off, because we've done quite well. But it's also the foundation that we have set, that the CJCC was established, that we had a treatment court established. Some of those are just core components to asking for anything else above and beyond.
I've been collecting data.
Yes, our data collection, that is, it's really just like clockwork, and that is bringing in the funding as well, because we can show what it is that we're seeing coming into the system, and how we're helping people. And as the recovery community is getting stronger, that also kind of, I think, just bolsters what we're attempting to do. And success brings success. And when the state folks see, look at Dunn County and what they're doing, they're like, oh, here's some more money, go ahead and do something with this. So it kind of creates those pathways, and knowing that we're going to try our damnedest to do what we say we're going to do, and
Right.
and deliver the deliverables on the grant, because we would keep getting the grants if we weren't able to do that. In some counties, they create programs but can't get the buy-in from stakeholders to make it happen. We've had that, so we're able to just make it happen a lot faster than others.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We just had our judicial conference last week, and talking to judges from around the state. They don't have the treatment opportunity, say, that we have with Arbor. Some counties, they don't have any services available. And the recovery community. That is a very important part of the success of some of the programs and people that we have involved. Now, I gotta shift my gears a little bit, maybe we get Jeff Smeltzer to work on this too, but find some mentors for some of these programs, like the Roundtable, Revival,
Yes.
things like that. But great job, thank you.
Do you have anything else regarding this? Do you want to do staff report next?
I guess as far as staff report, the written report was in the packet. I would just remind people that we put out a survey link, on the meeting invite, and I will send that survey. It's real quick, 10 questions, but really looking for feedback to help the executive committee and the operations committee at the December meeting start to frame up goals and, objectives for 2025. So really want your input. Started with just the council members, but I'm gonna blast it out to agencies that want all sorts of different feedback, for the committee to consider, at the next meeting. That's my staff report, unless there was questions.
Any updates from the agency? Agency updates?
Yeah, that's not me, that's everybody else.
Oh, any updates from any agencies?
MPD is happy to, we just wrote another grant talking about successes on top of each other. Our co-staff grant ended in 2024 here. That was a 3-year grant, and we just re-upped. Just got information back that we're just short of $1 million coming in, $995,000. So we're pretty excited about that, and I don't know if it's 3 or 5 year. But with that, it's collaborating with across the table there, and there's things in your grant that will have to be adjusted. I think that we're looking at the social worker, we're looking at manager, grant manager, stuff like that. And so we just had a meeting today with City Hall, and I'm looking at where we want to meet with you to figure out what would be easier to add at the state versus the federal grant. I think it would be easier for the state portion, but that's the easy part, to figure out where the money's.
Right, yeah, good problems,
It-
yeah.
And just so you know, I haven't talked to the sheriff yet either, but as this thing grows and all these spokes are being added to the wheel, I just want to make sure that, like with your grant coming in, that you're not doing your thing and the city's doing their thing, where we continue to dovetail together. And when I say that, I think it'd behoove us to look at doing an oversight committee for these, so we're all going the same direction, and have like a rep from the sheriff's department, the police department, have you sitting on there, one of the judges, and on this committee, so we're all going the same direction, and I think we'll get a better pull in the road that way. And then, so you're not trying to house something and go one way with the social worker, we want to go a different way, just keep it tied together. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, right now, as it stands, the CJCC Operations Committee is the oversight committee. But as we have more work to be done and ironed out with different agencies, and there probably is definitely enough work for another group to get together to do that.
And when I say oversight, like the West Central Drug Task Force program, we give an officer to that program, but we don't supervise that person. It's supervised by an agency head over there. Do we have final control over here if something should happen? Yes. And it's just a way that, so example, like if we were going in our program and all of a sudden we have a need for the city, and say, well, I'm gonna pull Aaron for 3 months. What does that do to this program?
Sure.
For emergency services, yes, but if it's not, that's why I want to keep it all going the same direction.
Love it. Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Anyone else? I always want to say when Sarah presents that I appreciate how much work you do and how much you're beneficial to our county.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But then, do we have is that it's on our agenda? Oh, we have a backside.
Yeah.
Well, hide your enthusiasm.
Our next meeting for the Executive and Operations Committee is December 5th at 11. And the CJCC quarterly meeting is yet to be determined.
Right, we got some dates, from the judge's office. We'll start with that, and
And we'll send you know.
Yep.
Anything else anybody has to say? Yeah.
Are we taking more, guys? I
Pardon
was
me?
just curious, I saw that Keith was here and Sarah, and I don't know who this should be addressed to. I was just curious if there's been any sort of update on the usage of the vending machine down in the.
good question.
I can get that information for the next meeting.
Nice.
We're done.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move them, sure.
I'll second that. Make it- oh, get on.
All in favor?
That'd be good.
All right, motion approved.
Thank you.